How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Andrew McCabe, soon to be former Deputy FBI Director, who has now been, I don't want to say removed, but basically forced out of the FBI. I think in 6 weeks his resignation will be official, but as of right now, he will not work anymore in the FBI. He's basically done over there. Now, this has been a long time coming. Trump been talking about this all throughout the election process because of how corrupt people at the FBI are. You had James Comey. James Comey was a nut. I don't know what was going on with him. This guy got on television and said how corrupt Hillary Clinton is, but yet there was not enough to indict her. There was not enough to put her behind bars. It was a gift that he did that, but at the same time, everybody knows that under Comey and McCabe and everybody else over at the FBI, which we'll talk about in a little while, nothing was going to happen. And if that's the case, when you're talking about Hillary Clinton, what about other things that need to happen in the United States when it comes to justice handed down from the FBI? What about any miscarriage of justice? What about looking into Trump in the 2016 election? What's going on with that? Would there be some improprieties going on there? I don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and just move on. So this is a good thing that he got removed here. Now check out this video from NBC Nightly News. They did a very good job, actually. I'm kind of surprised. They did a good job of explaining all of what's going on with the whole Andrew McCabe situation. If you're not really familiar, they talked about the memo. They talked about text messages. They talked about the whole shebang. So after we get done with that, I'll talk about that a little bit, then wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Friends and co-workers tonight tell NBC News two factors are behind Andrew McCabe's abrupt move to step down as deputy director. First, wariness at steady criticism from President Trump. NBC News has learned those tensions flared the night the president fired James Comey, who was out of town. He watched Comey return to Washington on a government plane.
The president called, fuming that Comey would be allowed to take this plane home after being fired. Then he suggested to McCabe that he ask his wife how it feels to be a loser and hung up.
He was talking about McCabe's wife, Jill, who ran for Virginia State Senate as a Democrat and accepted a nearly $500,000 contribution from a PAC run by Virginia's governor, a close friend of Hillary Clinton's. After his wife lost, McCabe became deputy FBI director and played a role in the Clinton email investigation.
No wonder they found nothing wrong. How does that look? How does that look? So dishonest.
That was followed by frequent attacks on Twitter from the president as recently as December. But friends say perhaps the biggest reason for McCabe's leaving now is that the Justice Department's Inspector General will soon issue a report expected to strongly criticize how the FBI handled the Clinton email investigation, including his role. A McCabe legal advisor and an FBI agent working on the email case exchanged hundreds of text messages, often harshly critical of Trump, calling him loathsome and an idiot. McCabe became acting FBI director after the firing of James Comey and was widely praised for saying the Russia investigation would not be derailed.
Quite simply put, sir, you cannot stop the men and women of the FBI from doing the right thing.
McCabe's departure means Christopher Wray now has his own team in place, but several officials insist Andrew McCabe left on his own. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Okay, so you see that. You're able to see what's going on there. Now, I think this is pretty much cut and dry as to what's happening here. Andrew McCabe was most certainly part of the swamp, the prototypical swamp creature that you find in Washington, D.C. I mean, this guy was a nut. The whole FBI, really, it's a lot of people in the FBI that need to get put out there. You saw the whole thing with the text messages. That was crazy. If you think that Trump is this bad guy, if he's an idiot, buffoon, or whatever, you work at the FBI and you're in charge of investigating what he had going on with the 2016 election, isn't that a conflict of interest? Shouldn't it be something that is just, stopped right away? And if you are the deputy FBI director or the head, the FBI director, and James Comey, shouldn't you be somebody that is actually against that type of thing going on? Shouldn't you have your foot on the pulse of what's happening over there? Shouldn't that be eradicated rather than allowed to persist? Right. And then the whole thing about him and Terry McAuliffe. Hey, Terry McAuliffe, I lived in Virginia at the time. You see the flag over my left-hand shoulder. I'm going to change that flag here pretty soon. I love Virginia, but I'm not there anymore. I'm in Tennessee. But I was there during the whole situation, during McAuliffe's governance. I know how corrupt he is. Not only him, not just Terry McAuliffe, dealing with Chinese businessmen under the table, trying to release all the felons in Virginia from their restriction of not being able to vote so you can get more Democratic votes for his pal Ralph Northam. Because little known fact, in Virginia, you cannot run back-to-back gubernatorial campaigns. So basically, all they do in Virginia is just pass the baton to the next guy. So whatever they can do, they're going to do it. I think, what was that? McCabe's wife tried to run, or was it McCullough's wife or McCabe's wife? And that was funny. Trump talking about ask wife how it feels to be a loser. That was hilarious, but that has not been corroborated. However, I do think that Trump did say that, because that sounds like Trump right there. And you know, part of the reason why McCabe stepped down allegedly is because of the constant Trump tweets and comments and basically being berated by him. I think that's a way of forcing them out, and it's a good thing. That is actually part of Trump's campaign promise, to drain the swamp. I mean, people like Terry McAuliffe, Andrew McCabe, some of their wives, all these people that are around them, the satellite figures, they're part of the swamp. It's not going to be an overnight process. It's not going to be an easy process. It might even be kind of a dirty process, but at the end of the day, it must be done. And Andrew McCabe most certainly had to get out of there. Hopefully you get a lot more of these guys out of there. People like John McCain, he's the worst. I mean, get John McCain out of there. Get a lot of these alphabet letter organizations reduced almost down to zero. I'm not going to name any names or organizations. I'm going to come after me, knock on my door, talking about, oh, you're speaking against the United States government. No, I'm just saying that the U.S. government should not be so big. It should not be so bloated. Why do we have so many organizations? And I feel like a lot of them do the exact same thing as the other. You could just consolidate a lot of them and you wouldn't miss a beat. There's so much money being spent in the federal government, as I close. There's so much money being spent in the federal government on unnecessary things that a lot of that stuff could be cut out. And there's a lot of corrupt people in the federal government. All they do is A, collect money, and B, empower themselves, and C, empower their friends and family. And I think that's what Andrew McCabe was doing. And the personal situations between the people at the FBI, the derogatory text about Trump, that right there is not going to help the country go forward. And if you are in a government and you're not here to help the country go forward, then you should not be here at all. So what do you think? Do you think that Andrew McCabe must go? Should he go right now? Shout out to Sheriff David Clark. I love him. A great guy. He was talking about, this is the swamp right here. How are you going to have Andrew McCabe basically get caught in corruption, some quid pro quo with Terry McAuliffe? How are you going to get caught with the whole text scandal? Maybe even get wrapped up in the whole Hillary Clinton email scandal, and you got something to do with that. How do you get caught up in that, but you're still allowed to stay on the payroll from the federal government for 6 more weeks and then allowed to retire, probably get your full benefits rather than being removed right away? That is a good question. But like I said, draining the swamp is not as easy as it may sound when you're on the campaign trails talking about, I want to drain the swamp. There are certain things you got to do that you may not want to do, but you got to get it done. It may be kind of dirty. It may be kind of sloppy. It may be kind of the opposite of what you were thinking it was going to be. But at the end of the day, it's for the good of the country that these people are not in the federal government anymore. If he's allowed to retire and draw a pension, I'm not a fan of that, but at least he's not in the government anymore making decisions. It's going to change your life. It's going to change my life. It's going to change the direction of the entire country. But do you think that Andrew McCabe should have stayed in the White House? And if you think that way, please explain to me why. What benefit does he actually bring as the deputy FBI director? I mean, what? Oh, and I got one more question for you. Do you think he's going to write a book? Is it going to be like James Comey and get spotted out in front of the New York Times or Huffington Post or whatever? Is he going to get a book deal? Is he going to come out there and do a Fire and Fury type thing? I'm still kind of mad at Steve Bannon for doing that book. I don't know what he was thinking about. I would expect a guy like James Comey or Andrew McCabe or some other ousted swamp member to write a book about Trump in a negative way. But I would not think Steve Bannon would do that. But hey, this just goes to show, as I close through this time, you don't really exactly know what's happening in the White House. You have your opinion about what's happening. You have the mainstream media telling you what's happening, but you really don't know. All I can say right now for certain is that Andrew McCabe is gone. One more swamp member out of there. Hopefully we get a lot more of them out of there. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.